And a very pleasant good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are. My name is Bob Quillman, and welcome to season 2, episode 17 of the QCast. And, I try to do a pretty good job of bringing in all of Division 3 into the QCast, pride myself into some of the guests I've had nationally. But sometimes you just kind of have to talk to the Titans. And this is one of those moments. And I'm really, really excited about this episode because I get a chance to talk to my guys, the Titans seniors, the class of 2022, which for a class of 1993 grad, that's starting to get like a really disturbing number, the 2022, but we'll talk about that in another episode. Really excited here to have Cory, Gavin Markgraff, Pete Lambesis, and Matt Leritz, the Titans seniors, are with me. And let's just go around the room here, guys, and check in. So, Cory, is it true that you're in the library as we speak? Is that correct?
Yeah, today's reading day, so just a day to study and stuff before our finals. So yeah, I was doing a little bit of studying before this. So.
It's a very YD3 moment with Cory
Yeah.
actually in the library. It's reading day, and then the guys have finals, and then they're done. Matt Leritz, you have some kind of 2006 Titan banner behind you. Matt Leritz, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Can't complain. Like Cory said, it's reading day. I don't think I'm as busy as Cory, or I think I could be, but I got that case of senioritis. It's really kicking in. So I'm not doing too much today, but yeah, I'm all good.
I had that senioritis thing. It started in about March, and I just never got over it. So whatever kind of studying you guys are able to do, more power to you. I was more about the senior walk and some of the other things going on at the time. Gavin Markgraff, it's great to have you here. Gavin, where are you located today? It looks like you could be held hostage somewhere in some indescript room. I don't know where you're at. How are you doing, Gavin?
I'm good. I actually I took down the Cubs flag for courtesy,
thank you.
Professionalism. But we're all under the same roof except for Cory here. Doing well other than that.
Well, it's great to see you. Thanks for taking down the Cubs stuff. Southside guy doesn't want that in there. I'm sure that St. Louis guy doesn't want it in there. So appreciate that, even though my Southside guys got swept really bad yesterday. So that was ugly. And last but not least, Pete Lambesis, ceiling fan there. I see a Chicago flag. We got a lot of stuff going on. Pete, how are you doing today?
Doing great. How you doing, Bob? I'm currently about 5 yards away from both Matt and Gavin at the third base house, if you're familiar with.
I'm very familiar with the third base house. Hornberger Field was not there when I was in school, but I've attended many a game and appreciate the boys in the third base house. So it's great to have you guys. And I had to give this a little time to do this kind of season wrap up episode because, for a while there, it took me a while to get over this, the way the season ended. I'm sure that for you guys, it's been even tougher. And I want to talk about that, but boy, what a great season that the Titans had, led by all of you guys. And I just want to kind of take a step back here and look big picture at what you accomplished. But first of all, as Coach Rose would tell you, the priority in any season starts with a conference championship. And the CCIW, if it's not the best league in Division 3, it's number 2. It's 1 or number 2. And you walk away with winning the CCIW championship your junior season, your senior season. You go 14-2, which is really, really hard to do. Let me just kind of go around the room first and get your thoughts on what it feels like leaving as a CCIW champion, which is incredibly hard to accomplish. Cory, your thoughts on the conference title this year?
Yeah, I would honestly say with so many returning guys in the conference, for example, Wheaton and Elmhurst had a lot of 5th and 6th year guys. You could make the argument that this was one of the tougher years or the toughest year to win a conference title. So to be able to do that, and with us not having any 5th year or 6th year guys, is pretty unique and pretty cool. And again, going 14-2 is so tough to do in the CCIW when you're getting challenged every single night you step onto that floor. So really cool accomplishment and something that, we are all, I think, very proud of being able to do.
It's a great point. Every team we played this year, at least almost all of them, the best ones all had 5th year guys. If you think of Adome and Alioth, and you think of Jake Rohde and Levon Thomas, you just go down the line. and that extends into the NCAA playoffs, and including the teams that were in Fort Wayne. What you guys accomplished without a single fifth-year guy was pretty incredible. Gavin, you have a unique perspective. For those that don't know, Gavin came to the Titans as a heavily recruited wing player, expected to fill a big role, and Gavin just couldn't stay healthy. Suffered a couple really big injuries that he couldn't come back from. But the cool thing is that Gavin turned himself into kind of a player coach to stay involved in things, which was really, really cool. Gavin, your thoughts on kind of looking back on the conference championship?
Yeah, I think like, first of all, being in the shoes that I was this year, it was, like you said, so unique. I think being able to see the coach's side of things and then the player's side of things, you kind of get an experience that nobody else on the team really gets. So I was really thankful for that. As far as the conference championship goes, I think it was special, and how we did it so convincingly by winning the CCIW by 2 games is just something that's really hard to do. And I think, you know, going off of last year's COVID year with the CCIW tournament win, and just kind of propelling into this year, is just a perfect transition. And I think it often gets overlooked a little bit in the grand scheme of things, just because, you know, the high hopes and the tough loss in the Elite Eight. I think, you know, it's something that might not be talked about enough. So
it's a huge deal when Titan fans think about the success of a season. I can promise you the first thing they think about is a conference championship. And when you guys clinched, I mean, that was an enormous deal. And so the season was great for many, many reasons, and it starts there. Pete, you were part of the team last year. You were on the floor in the game at Wheaton in the kind of the strange COVID year. You were on the floor all year this year. So 2 conference championships in a row. What was this one like for you, Pete?
Yeah, it was really cool. I think, you know, you have to look at the season, you know, as like a journey. And I think we checked a lot of boxes. You know, the group we had, obviously we wanted to make to the Final Four. That was like the goal. But it's easy to kind of look past the conference championship because, you know, the way we went out in the Elite Eight. So I think it's important to remember how special that is. You know, winning back-to-back conference championships is a big deal. And I think that's something that we can definitely hang our hats on, because not many teams are able to do that. You know, our first 2 years we struggled. You know how we get the conferences. It's arguably the best conference in Division III. So being able to do that like back-to-back years is something that's super special and definitely shouldn't be looked past.
Without question. Well, very well said. And Matt, obviously most outstanding player in the CCIW. Big year. The ball kind of went through you this year as a senior. What was the journey like in the conference title for you, Matt?
I mean, it obviously meant a lot. I mean, this is kind of what we've been working towards for 4 years. You know, back when we were freshmen, I think we would always talk about how good that Augie team was. And essentially we wanted to become that good. And when this season was all said and done, I remember we were all sitting around and we're like, were we on that level? And when you really think about it, I guess we were. And just like Gavin was saying, I think because we had such a heartbreaking loss in the Elite Eight, I think a lot of the good things that we've done have kind of been overshadowed by that loss. But winning the conference championship convincingly by 2 games in a really tough, experienced veteran conference is definitely something to be proud of. So yeah, no doubt one of the big highlights of the season and one of the big highlights of my career here.
You know, we'll talk about the Wabash game a little bit later, but what I'll tell you guys this is that if any of you are feeling like anyone is missing out or forgetting on the amazing run that was your careers of this season because of 20 minutes of basketball, I mean, I'm here to tell you that Titan Nation loves you guys and the journey this year, and we felt the pain of that game right there with you. In fact, I think the reason that loss was so tough for me personally was I wanted that for you guys. You know, I wanted you guys to go to the Final Four and be on that stage. And I thought the way you guys have handled yourselves personally for 4 years, the word deserved isn't right because no one deserves anything in basketball, but I felt that it would have been a great experience for the way that you guys have played and acted on and off the court to get that. And this is a special group right here for Illinois Wesleyan fans. You guys will be remembered as one of the greatest teams the Titans have ever had. The season this year was so memorable. We'll talk about that. So, before we move forward, I just want to make sure you guys know that what happened in the final 7 or 8 minutes of a basketball game is not what people are going to remember about this group of young men. Let's talk a little bit here about, well, first of all, what I'd like to do is just kind of go around the room a little bit. You guys were such a memorable group. And I can remember kind of when I started realizing who all of you were. And like Cory knows, your sophomore year, you had a really big, it's funny, I remember shots. You hit a really big shot from the left wing at Augustana when you were a sophomore. And I was like, hey, that kid's going to be good. Matt, you were hurt a lot of your sophomore year, but it was that play that coach ran for you at North Central where you made the 3 against Augustana from the right wing, right in front of the Titan bench. I could still kind of see the play. Keandre's going up over this way. You get the ball. What a big moment that was. You mentioned how good Augustana was, right? And that was the season after, but they still had Micah Martin and a bunch of guys. And I remember thinking, boy, the Leritz kid's going to be a load. And Pete, I think it was your freshman year. I swear you tried to dunk on some dude on the baseline and you missed it. But I remember thinking, I like the fact that this skinny little guy tried to dunk that basketball. Do you remember this, Pete? You came on the baseline.
Yeah, it was at home against Augustana.
Right. And am I right? You tried to dunk it and you missed it, but it was close.
Yeah.
I was like, that kid. It's also funny. I remember funny things. Like I know I was in the Dallas airport when Ron Rose texted me that Pete Lambesis just committed and he's going to be a stud. So these little things. And Gavin, same deal. When the Titans landed you out of McHenry, was it McHenry West? Is that where you were from, your high school?
Yeah, McHenry West. There's a McHenry East and West, but we combined sports. But nonetheless, I'm from West. Yep.
I mean, when you committed, that was a really big deal. That was as big as all the rest of the guys. It was like, we got Gavin Markgraff. He's a big wing that can shoot the heck out of it, blah, blah, blah. And so, it's funny when you follow the team as closely as I do, just watching you guys mature from those first moments until you're graduated. I'm curious, guys, usually these things feel like they go really fast, like these 4 years of college. Cory, does it feel like just yesterday you walked in the door, or does this feel like it's been does it feel like 4 years? Does it feel like this went quick or not?
Yeah, definitely. Before you go to college, everyone always says college is going to go so much faster than high school did. And like, it's just so true. Like I feel like yesterday we were all moving into Munsell together and, meeting each other awkwardly for the first time. But now, 4 years is come and gone, and I'm lucky to have had these 3 guys as they will be like some of my best friends for life. So yeah, it's gone so fast though.
Matt, how about on your end? Is this ride from the day you walked in the door to now, does it feel like it's flown by?
Yeah, it feels like it's gone by in the absolute blink of an eye. Like just like Cory said, after you hear your whole life, oh, like high school and college goes so fast, make the most of it. But now that we graduate in about a week and a half, it's really hitting home. Like, oh, we're about to go into the real world now. Like we're could be considered adults actually, which is just crazy to think about. And I also think when you're playing basketball and you're kind of just in this 6-month grind every single year, I think it just makes school go by faster. So yeah, it feels like we were moving into months this August. It's crazy.
And unfortunately, guys, what happens is it starts moving faster now. I can tell you, it's like 1 minute you're going to wake up and you're going to be 50 years old being like, what just happened to those years? So you got to enjoy every moment like you guys have done with your 4 years of college. Gavin, on your side, again, basketball wise, you've had a tougher grind. You were hurt most of the time. You got to be a coach this year. Do you feel like this 4 years has gone fast as well, like Cory and Matt said?
Yeah, I think it's been just as fast. I think if you look back, like our freshman year, hearing like Brady Rose and Colin Barnett tell us to like soak in these 4 years, you kind of laugh it off as a freshman. So it's kind of weird to be in those shoes now and, telling the young guys such a cliche statement, but there's so much truth to that statement. So it's flown by. I think when you look back on the season, though, in retrospect, it's been such a long season. Like looking back at the Lake Forest U Chicago game, you kind of forget about those early season games. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you do think about that, it was a fast season, but it was actually a really long season. If you think of all the different stuff that happened, I was at the Sigma tournament, at least the Hope game night of it. And boy, that seems like that was 3 years ago almost. Pete, on your end, it seems like just yesterday that I was tweeting out that a kid named Peter Lambesis from St. Viator committed to the Titans. How's the ride been for you? Do you feel like it's gone super fast on your end?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely flown by, given last year. And I think we've probably played like close to 90 games, I think now by the end of our career. But like when you put it in that way, it doesn't seem like we played 90 games together. But it's definitely flown by. And like Cory kind of said, he remembers moving in freshman year. Like I remember our first meal together at the cafeteria over at Saga. But yeah, it's kind of funny just thinking about like how quickly it'll fly by. But then once you're in the middle of the season, sometimes, it slows down a little bit. But in the grand scheme of things, it's definitely flown by.
69-29, the record over 4 years. That's a 73% winning percentage in the conference. 40-14. 40-14. That's 741. Your last 2 years in the league, 19-3. Pretty amazing. I mean, pretty amazing stuff right there. You talk about what people remember and the ride you took us on the last 2 years. Wanted to ask about the last 2 years because unfortunately, a lot of your college experience has been dealing with the pandemic. And let me just pick out a couple guys. I mean, Cory, the COVID season last year, that was crazy stuff. I mean, I remember as a fan, I'd just be sitting there waiting for the Titans to play, but I didn't even know if you guys were getting on the bus to go to the game or not. You had to wait until like maybe someone texted me, hey, we're on the bus. What has the pandemic, Cory, been like for you being a student athlete these last 2 seasons?
Yeah, it's definitely been different and a challenge. I would say from the school aspect of it, it was really weird because you could literally just roll out of bed, get on Zoom, and you're there. You don't have to physically walk to class or anything like that. And I'm a person that I like to go like in person to class if I have the option. So not being able to do that and kind of just having to be in your own room and stuff wasn't super fun for me. And then the basketball aspect of it, we practiced a bunch in the fall of last year. And honestly, we went home for winter break and my thought process was like, we're not going to have a season. That's just kind of what I was thinking. So then for everything to come back and us to get to be able to play a few conference games and stuff was pretty cool. And then have that tournament was cool as well. So honestly, again, like through COVID and everything, it makes you really appreciate, the chances or the opportunities you get to put on a jersey or go get to compete with some of your friends. So that's kind of the big thing I take away from it is, at any time, COVID just literally shut everything down. So just enjoy every moment you get to go out there and play the game that you love.
And Matt, from your standpoint, was it cool at least that by the end of your career, like picture the end of the conference season and the NCAA tournament games at the Shirk Center, that you were able to experience almost like a normal setup there? You had full Shirk Centers, you had everything that Titans in the past have had there at the end. Having gone through last year with the pandemic and now it finishing that way, did it at least feel good at the end the way things played out with the pandemic?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think because of everything that we went through last year with the pandemic and practicing and not playing games, I think it really made us appreciate what we were able to have and what we were able to do this season. And it made everything feel all the more special. You really miss having the band at games. You miss playing in front of a packed Shirk Center. And that's something that is really, really cool and something that we have to experience over and over and over again this season. So I think it really just made us more grateful for the opportunity that we were able to get and made it that much more memorable in the end.
It was, from a fan standpoint, it was cool for me to see that. Like thank God these guys get to play in a normal environment at the end, because look, for a while there in December, January, things went back to being really bad. You know, we had to limit attendance at the Shirk. I think you guys had to submit names on a pass list, and it felt like here we go again. But fortunately, by the end, by mid to late February into March, you really got kind of a really cool Division III Titan experience there in your final games, which for me was really cool. I want to ask about the journey that was the season a little bit. Pete, when you think about the SICMA tournament and the chance to go against Oshkosh right off the bat, and you knew that both teams were Final Four caliber teams. You knew that those were two top 10 teams. Knocking off Oshkosh in that game, Pete, did that must have been a big feeling for you guys to know that you could play with anyone at that point.
Yeah, I think you put that really well. I think that was like a large pillar of our season, because once we beat them, obviously last year we were really successful, but given COVID, we didn't play, that type of schedule. So once we were able to beat them, I think our third game in, it was kind of like, we kind of all knew like, all right, we have something special here. I think we were 3-0 at the time after that, and we knew like we could play, with the team, with the best of them. So I think that when I look back on our season, that was as big as probably any other win, because, it helped with the national tournament with our seeding. But just in general, like you kind of said, we kind of knew after that we could play with them. And I think that was huge for, the success and journey of our season.
Gavin, from your standpoint, that Oshkosh game, there's such different styles, really. They're a smaller team in terms of height, but boy, they have some physical, strong guys. Levi Borchett is a beast, and having to guard their perimeter and all of those shooters they have, which is ridiculous. From the sidelines, Gavin, and a coach's perspective, what did you see in that game that we did so well that allowed the Titans to knock off Oshkosh?
Yeah, I think it really just felt like, an old school CCIW game against, Oshkosh. I thought we matched up so well with them, with Pete being a bigger guy on, Eddie, number 3, he's just an elite scorer. And then Luke, having a good defensive game on Plowman. I just think the way we matched up with them and the way our guards kind of hawked them, it was a really low scoring game in the end. I think it was in the 60s, low 60s. So it really just kind of set the tone for our defensive mindset the rest of the year. And I think we just took that game and ran with it.
That felt like a huge start to the season. I know it wasn't the opening weekend, but it felt like that started everything in motion. Matt, want to talk about the Wash U game, not from a standpoint of X's and O's, but the perspective that's come to all of us from the Justin Hardy story this year. And, we've had a great rivalry with Wash U for many years. And in fact, it's undisputedly the top non-conference rivalry in Division III. But I think this season, everyone looked at things a lot different, because here you have a 21-year-old kid that is battling stage 4 stomach cancer. And I know that you guys were aware of all that kind of heading into that game, and certainly as the season played out. I mean, just curious, Matt, your thoughts on what a fellow student athlete has been going through, and just kind of the whole Justin Hardy story.
Yeah, I think after playing him, and watching all the stuff on ESPN and just repeatedly reading about him on Twitter and whatnot, I think it really kind of puts everything in perspective. And basketball is such a small aspect, not of our lives per se, but of who we really are and in the grand scheme of life. There are much more important things. And that aside, just what Justin was able to do, what he was able to do for most of the season is absolutely incredible. It is just absolutely amazing that he was an all UAA type player. I think he had a double against us. He almost dunked on me. It's just incredible what he was able to do. It's nothing short of amazing. So hats off to him. I think we all feel for him. But yeah, I mean, what he was able to do was awesome. And from afar, after we played him, I think everyone in the country in Division III, even though we were fighting for that top spot in the region, I think everyone was rooting for Justin Hardy to perform well. It's just an amazing story.
Well said. And Pete, you're a fellow Chicago area hooper, just like Justin Hardy, and kind of your thoughts on what Justin's going through and kind of competing against him this year in all of that with Justin.
Yeah, no, I'd say it's the most inspiring like story I've ever been able to follow, like in terms of college sports. I kind of know him just from high school playing a little bit. And he's always been such a, positive guy. So kind of getting to follow his journey throughout college has been really cool. And then being able to see what he's been able to do this year is like nothing short of inspiring. And that's honestly just been awesome to follow.
Yeah, it's continued kudos to Justin Hardy and well wishes from everyone in Division III Nation for Justin and what he's going through. And he's battling and he's got a tough road ahead of him, but certainly we continue to wish him well. Moving on a little bit as the season progresses, we cannot have this episode without talking about the Yeshiva game. And it's fun. I remember after the WashU game ended, like I was getting ready to head out of the building, and I ran into Matt, he was right in front of the concession stand heading, I think, to the Titan locker room. And I just said, "Hey, Matt, tough games. I'll see you in New York." And I think Matt said something like, "Yeah, we're going to need to have your back in that one." So like he was aware that I had some stuff on the line with that Yeshiva game. And Cory, what was the atmosphere of that whole experience? I know that going to the game and flying to New York, did it feel like that was a big game to you guys, or was that like just me drumming stuff up on Twitter? Did you feel like you were going to play a super big game like the rest of Division III felt like it was?
Yeah, so it was actually funny. So we were in Chicago and we were about ready to like get on our flight, and this kind of goes to a little bit to like COVID. So then our first game gets canceled. So then there was like a thought process of like, are we even going to fly? Like, are we even going to go play there? Are we going to pick up another game once we get there and everything? But obviously we knew that the Yeshiva game was pretty big. And for us specifically in the season, I think we had lost 2 of our last 3. We had lost at Wheaton and then at WashU. So for us going into it, it was a great opportunity for us to, kind of get back on track and maybe start our second semester of games going in the right direction. And then me personally, while I did know like a lot of stuff was being talked about on Twitter, and I knew it would probably be a big game for Yeshiva fans and everything like that, I didn't really understand the magnitude of it until I got off the bus. And then once I saw that super long line of people, I was like, oh, like this is the type of game. It's going to be a really fun environment to play in. So yeah, honestly, just great environment to play in. It was a super cool opportunity that we all got the chance to be a part of.
Gavin, from your standpoint, getting to watch that kind of play out from the sidelines, crazy difficult offense to try to contain, and really crazy talented players to try to contain. What did you see in that game, Gavin, from an X's and O's standpoint that allowed us to get up 20 points in the first half and generally kind of dominate that game? And that was one of the best Titan performances I've ever seen. And what were you seeing from an X's and O's standpoint?
Yeah, well, first off, like you said, I think their offensive firepower is really unmatched in Division III, and the way they have no true sets, and it's just kind of like a motion type offense. It's definitely hard to contain. But I think what we did so well in that game was our ability to get out in transition. I think especially like late in the first half, guys were winded on Yeshiva, and I don't think there's really any stopping us. And of course, guys were hitting shots. Luke had a few threes. Cody hit a couple. Pete had a 3 at the top of the key. So I think, a little bit of hitting those shots and running in transition was really kind of what took them out of it early.
And Pete, the job that you did on Ryan Terrell, if you think about this, just last weekend, Ryan Terrell played in the Portsmouth Invitational, where he lit a whole bunch of Division I guys up. So he's the only Division III guy in the Invitational. It's all Division I guys, except maybe 1 or 2 Division II guys. And the job you did, I mean, the first half, Ryan Terrell wasn't that much of a factor in that game. He ended up getting his points at the end, or some points. But your thoughts coming into that game, Pete, with your matchup on one of the best players Division III has seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, it was really cool just coming from like a defensive standpoint in terms of like preparing for it. Because we had our game plan as a team. And then individually, I kind of had some stuff that I wanted to focus on. So that was kind of cool in itself because I knew the type of matchup I was going into. And then just obviously before the game, seeing stuff on Twitter, like people going back and forth about the matchup was cool. But he's such a skilled, intelligent player that it was tough at times because like I'm thinking back, like in the first half, he's kind of got that like low post and he'll have like a turnaround into a jumper and he'll shot fake and then spin the other way. So like moves like that, those are honestly really tough to guard. But yeah, he's such a skilled player that matchup was really special.
And just taking a side road for a second, Pete, with you, I can't remember the stat that I came up with, but when the All-American team came out, I think I realized that in like a third of our games this year, you guarded a player from the All-American team. So meaning like, Elmhurst, you had Jake Rohde 2 times there, and you had a Dome. I think you had him 3 times, et cetera, et cetera. You had Terrell, you had Jack Nolan, you had Davidson. What was that like this year? This gauntlet of opposing stud perimeter guys where you were kind of the guy asked to make it difficult on them.
Yeah, no, I loved it. It was cool because to be the best, you got to beat the best. So kind of going into the season, we kind of always, actually, all of us were always joking like, this is going to be probably the toughest schedule that the Wesleyan team has played in a long time. So we kind of knew like what we were getting into with some of the matchups we were going to face, but it was definitely special and cool to be a part of, to be able to guard that many good players.
And Matt, 25 rebounds, at least that's what the box score says. I know you have questioned that. You think that maybe they credited some of Cody's rebounds to you. At some point, we'll go back and watch the film and have an accurate, because it is the record on paper right now. So if it's wrong, we owe it to Jack Sickman to figure this out. But Matt, your thoughts? I mean, you had a great game there as well from a standpoint of controlling the paint. And you got guarded by a lot of different guys. I think Gabe was on you for a while. Terrell was on you for a good chunk of the game. What was the Yeshiva game and the experience like for you, Matt?
Completely unmatched and uncomparable to really anything I think any of us have been a part of. I mean, you were at the game. The Max Stern Center was an absolute zoo. It was awesome. Like from the get-go, we stepped off the bus. There's a line of 400 people down the block. And just all the buzz behind that game on Twitter all week. The fact that they were riding a 50-game win streak, and they were number 1 in the country, and we were the ones that had the opportunity to put it into all the ESPN articles, all the TikToks, things like that. So it was just a really special opportunity. It was so much fun, such a good time.
I'm curious for all of you guys, what happened, and maybe I'll direct this to Pete and Matt, but what exactly happened after the game? I've never seen anything quite like that where, certainly when we play Augustana and the game ends and we win the game or they win the game, the opposing fans aren't like asking for autographs or talking to each other. Right. So I've never seen what happened when that game ended. And I'm not even sure the origins of it or how. I guess it was just an organic thing that happened. But Pete, first of all, the endearing image I have is of you and Ryan Terrell's mom. Just like there's a picture of you two, just like you couldn't be smiling any bigger, both of you. And how did you get to talking to Mama Terrell? First of all, I got to ask you that.
Yeah. So basically what happened is after the game, we were talking to everyone from Yeshiva, and I had crossed paths with Mrs. Terrell, and she's like, "Oh, is your mom here? I'd love to meet her." And my parents couldn't make the game. So long story short, she had sent, so we were talking, and then she's like, "Oh, I'd love to meet your mom." So she had sent a kind of like a video just saying hello to my mom. So then my mom had got it and then sent the video back. So I had sent that through Ryan. So it was kind of funny after the game dealing with that. But yeah, she was just so nice. After the game, we were just talking, like what this experience was like and how cool it was for, both teams being able to do something like that. And that's something I always remember. That was a really cool part of it.
And Matt, on your side, you were in the middle of all that too, with just a lot of fans coming up. And I mean, what do you think led to all that? And what were your thoughts as the 15, 20, 30 minutes after the buzzer sounded played out?
I think a part of it was, just all the hype surrounding the game. And maybe people thought we were more important than we actually are, for the first time in my life, I kind of felt like a think I can speak for all of us. We all kind of felt like celebrities almost. So shout out to all the D3 Hoops guys on Twitter. I feel that way. But yeah, I think it was this kind of just like this gradual build up to this game and all the hype surrounding it. And I don't really know what to attribute it all to, but yeah, like you said, it was definitely special. You know, people were like pitching us jobs and introducing me to their kids or their wives or their grandparents. Like I think we all probably shook 100 hands each that night. So yeah, no doubt a really unique, awesome experience that is really, really uncommon in college basketball.
And it started kind of a great relationship from school to school that certainly didn't exist before this game is played. And they're coming to the Shirk. I hope that wherever all of you guys are, if you can make it to the Shirk in November for the Sigma tournament, Titans versus Yeshiva, I'm quite certain they want a piece of us. You know, I've already set the queue line at like 23, so people are mad at me about that. And Terrell's gone and Gabe's gone. They got some recruits coming in, but I'm telling you what, they're coming to the Shirk to win that game. And so we cannot lose the intensity. We got to work with these young guys and make sure they take care of business. Cory, in the game on that, and it's funny how the start of a game can make a big deal. First play of the game, I believe you guys always run a set play in your first possession. And Pete goes in the lane, kicks it out to Luke. Luke makes a three that touches zero rim. I mean, it's just in. And then Cory, I think on the next possession, you make it 6-0. Did you feel, Cory, like the start of the game was, those felt like bigger than 6 points. It almost felt like it was 12-0 at that point. What did the start of that game feel like to you?
Yeah, I mean, you basically said it. It was huge. With that environment, you know, to come out and hit 2 threes, you know, I think if Yeshiva hits the 2 threes, that game goes a lot different. Because it kind of just set the tone for that whole first half. But yeah, Luke hitting a big shot, and then I got an open look in the corner. And yeah, again, it kind of just set the tone for the rest of that first half and inevitably that whole game. Again, if they probably would have hit those threes, I think that place would have been rocking, and that game would have been a tough thing for us to try to climb back from down 6-0. So.
Yeah, and just before we leave the Yeshiva game, I've heard you talk about it, Pete, but the conversation you had with Gabriel Leifer after the game is something that a lot of people talked about, and rightly so. Just, you know, here's 2 guys that just played this knockdown drag out game, and they're talking about, you know, the accounting field and plans. And that was a pretty cool thing on his end, Pete, kind of reaching out to you to talk about your future and accounting and all that stuff. And talk about how that whole thing with Gabe played out after the game.
Yeah, that was really cool. I think that kind of epitomizes D3 hoops pretty well. Like, I think we talked about the game for probably 3.5 minutes. And then for the next 10 minutes, we were talking about, you know, our future careers and what we want to do with accounting. And that was really cool because he's someone I'm sure I'll be, you know for the rest of my career whenever I start working. And he was just really helpful. And then he kind of talked about his experience, you know, because he was working at the same time. He was in busy season while the season was going on, the basketball season. So that's something I'll never forget because that was really special.
Agree. I think the whole thing epitomized the whole like hashtag YD3 thing, and give all of you guys kudos, because I mean, you could have handled yourselves differently. Not that you guys would, but a lot of times a game like that, one team comes in, upsets the other team or wins on their floor, and they act a certain way. You guys just acted with such class, and you acted so humbly, and you were so respectful to everyone, that I thought that was a really proud moment for Illinois Wesleyan and Illinois Wesleyan basketball fans, just the way you guys carried yourselves in that moment. I think a different group of kids could have handled that differently, but really kudos and proud of you guys for the way that played out. In no particular order, next topic, the next group of Titans here, you know, next year that the season's going to start and you guys ain't going to be there. Gavin, give me a guy or two that's a little bit under the radar, meaning a guy that didn't play like 15 minutes a game this year. Like, you can't pick Cody Mitchell and tell me he's like your sleeper. You can't pick Soroka. You know what I'm saying? Like, give me a guy that played a little bit or not at all, like a JV guy or a guy that played split. who's a guy that I need to keep my eye on? Like that guy might be really good next year. Who do you got, Gavin? I'm putting you on the spot. And I'm going to ask the rest of you guys the same question.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think immediately what comes to mind is Connor Heaton. I think the way he handled this year, on and off the court, whether it was, 2 minutes a game or 5 minutes a game, and some games he didn't play. I'm just like unbelievably proud of him, the way he handled it. And, he's always on the bench cheering. He would never change the way he would be on the bench, supporting these three on the court. If they come off, he's always standing up and high-fiving them when they get on the bench. So really the way he handled this season and the uncertainty with his playing time, I think is something that I'm so proud of him for.
And I can't believe that in Division III, there's a more physically gifted kid that barely played this year than Connor Heaton. And so that's, look, when you come to Illinois Wesleyan, or you come to the top of Division III, there's going to be moments when you're behind some really good seniors and juniors. And I can't wait to see Connor Heaton play basketball next year. Pete, you've been playing against these guys. They've been helping prepare you for the last couple of years, at least. Give me a guy who am I looking out for, Pete Lambesis, next year when we need to beat Yeshiva, big game, those kind of things. We're playing Augustana. Who's a guy that's a sleeper right now?
Shane Miller, I'd say. I think he's a guy who can do kind of a little bit of everything. He's a really good on-ball defender. He's a lead guard. He can play the point. And I think he's a guy who, when he gets his opportunity, he's gonna go out and take it. And he's a guy who knows how to work, and someone that honestly isn't, he didn't play it all this year, wasn't as well known. So I think he's someone that, as he grows throughout his 4 years, he's going to end up being a really good player.
Point guard from Springfield. I hear a lot of great things about Shane. And, you got the point guard job that is now wide open for next year. Shane has a chance to compete for that. Matt, how about on your end? Who's an under the radar Titan for me next year?
That's really tough. I mean, so if we want to talk about the bigs a little bit, I think it's going to be a really good competition between Harrison Wilmson, Evan Schneider, and Grant Hardy. I think it's kind of a toss-up right now, and I think they all know that. I think it kind of all comes down to who's going to work the hardest in the offseason and the best shape in the gym the most. So that could be a really interesting competition. But I also think a guy like Shane really emerge and grow into a role, just because whether it's the starting point guard or backup point guard position is essentially wide open. I think he's everything you want in a point guard. He's tough, he's athletic, he's super unselfish. I don't think he could care less about his own personal stats or how much attention he gets. He's a pass first guy, and I think that's exactly what you want in a point guard. So yeah, I would definitely keep an eye on Shane.
That's awesome to hear. And with the bigs, I agree. I think people think, oh, the Titans are not going to be good at the 5 next year because Matt Leritz is gone. But from what I saw of Harrison Wilmson and projecting that out, what I know about Evan Schneider and Grant Hardy, who's 6'8" and big and can jump, I think the Titans are going to be really, really good at the 5 next year. And so I agree with you, Matt. And Cory, how about on your end? Who do I need to be looking out for next year?
Yeah. I guess this guy played a little bit this year, but Nick Roper, you saw flashes of it against, I think, Augustana. Was that? Yeah, Augustana maybe. I think he's going to be a really good player in our program the next 3 years. And it's going to be fun to watch him because he's a very quiet guy right now. So it'll be fun to watch him over the next 3 years and see how he develops into a leader, and becoming more vocal on the defensive end is always going to be a challenge that us seniors tried to get him to do a little bit. But yeah, he's just super long, can shoot it, can drive and get to the rim and everything. So everything you'd want in a Division III player. So
yeah, as far as physical tools, I mean, what I saw of Nick Roper from watching video streams, boy, he's got a bright future. A 6'7", he might be more like 6'8", wing player, truly has guard skills, and really big things ahead for Nick Roper. So, and I know there's a bunch of other guys that we all could have listed here, but it's great to kind of hear some of the names emerge because it gets people excited for next year. Let's talk about the NCAA tournament a little bit. What a fun ride. You know, you have a game against Franklin that you play really well and you win handily. That lacrosse game, I'm telling you guys, I was watching from home here. That was a tough watch. That was a grind. That was a CCIW WIAC grind. And there was a stretch, and I don't remember what the score was, but let's just say it was 45-45. It was that score for like 4 minutes. And it felt to me like the next basket was going to win the game. It felt that intense. Cody finally makes, I think Cody made a three, like left wing extended, that gave us some breathing room. Matt, you had the dagger, but Matt, on your end, that lacrosse game, that must have been freaking intense to play in.
Yeah, that was absolutely wild. Just like you said, it was just a battle from the start. You know, just I guess a typical old-fashioned CCIW wild game. And I got in bad foul trouble early on, so it kind of took me out of the game for most of the first half, and then a lot of into the second half as well. So I really wasn't able to find a rhythm. Yeah, just that's one of those games where it's not pretty. But it's the NCAA tournament, and you just got to find a way to win. A lot of guys stepped up. Cody had his best game of the season, no doubt, just making big defensive play after big defensive play and going down with countless offensive rebounds. Yeah, I think that's what good teams are able to do, especially in the tournament against other really good teams. They're able just to find ways to win, even when the ball isn't going through the hoop or we don't seem to have much of a rhythm on offense. It's just one of those grinded out, gritty games.
Yeah, and Pete, on your end, that was another game where you had an All-American to match up with from lacrosse. I think Ethan Anderson, and tough matchup. And Pete, how did you analyze that game? Looking back on that one.
Yeah, the first word that comes to mind is a grinder. Like I remember after the game, we all go out and talk to our parents. I remember telling my parents, I was like, that was the most tiring game I've ever been a part of at Wesleyan. It was just 40 minutes of just just tough basketball. So, and honestly, looking back, it's one of my favorite games we've played here at Wesleyan, playing at home in the NCAA tournament. So that one was really cool to be able to get that one.
Yeah, that was an incredible game. We come back, and the next weekend we have our old friends from Wheaton. Knew that would be a tough game. Both teams knew each other. There probably wasn't a lot of special prep, kind of like, we got to play well. And we find a way to beat Wheaton in a really tough game. And then we have the game against Wabash on Saturday night to get to the Final Four. It was a weird game in a lot of ways. It was just a weird game, and I'm just going to leave it there. They start off, I think it's 10-0. We catch up, we go ahead. We get a little breathing room. I think we're up 7. They hit a shot at the buzzer of the half to get it to 5. Second half, felt like we were kind of about to pull away. At some point, all of a sudden there's this run. Look, I'm not going to ask you guys about officiating. I'm not going to ask you about this and that. That would be silly. And I don't want to take anything away from Wabash. But Cory, on that end, your thoughts on the Wabash game, and it was a tough game. And how tough was it when the buzzer sounded that night? Like, that must have been a tough one for everyone. What were your thoughts on the Wabash game?
Yeah, obviously it was very tough. Yeah, I would say, kind of like you said, going into halftime, we had kind of gotten a little lead, and then they hit that buzzer beater. But at half, we were all kind of just like, all right, let's just go play 20 more minutes of good basketball, and we should be fine. And honestly, I thought, like, going into half, I was like, all right, well, we're going to probably extend it. And then, and as we know, that didn't really happen. But yeah, it was definitely a tough pill to swallow. Me personally, I didn't really shoot it that well. And then for that to be like my final game kind of stinks. But when you can reflect back on everything else, you obviously try to keep in mind all the positives that went into this season and everything. But yeah, definitely probably the toughest loss I've ever had in my life. It's pretty tough. Cool atmosphere though, I guess, and take that away. The Wabash fans were very rowdy. So it made Shirk Center really fun to play in.
And isn't that the cool thing about athletics, is because it's real life. I mean, in real life, what you guys are about to find out is things don't always go your way. you know, and that's what happens in basketball. You have a game that you want so badly and it doesn't turn out the way you want it to, but you got to find a way to pick yourself up and move on. Another great thing about athletics, Gavin, from an X's and O's standpoint, you guys had to deal with Jack Davidson. They had a number of other guys who were playing really well. What did you see from the sidelines, Gavin, in the Wabash game?
Yeah, credit to them. They caught fire at, the right time in March. And I think, when Pete got in foul trouble, we had some guys that needed to step up. And I thought, Lucas and Luke kind of being on Davidson, I thought, they did a really good job. But they got hot, and sometimes it's really hard to stop a team with that momentum. And, nonetheless, we played a great game, I thought. Just two really good teams going at it, and their run was special. But I don't think it should overlook the run we had and the great season we capped off.
Without question, and that's what I hope you guys take away from this is you got people thinking about 4 years of basketball and all these moments from this season that were incredible, and I guarantee there's no one sitting around thinking about the four of you guys in the Wabash game, or they're thinking about what you contributed. And I hope that's what you leave here thinking about. Just a couple more things and then we'll wrap this up. And I really appreciate, I know you guys are busy, at least some of you. Cory is, he's in the library. I'm not sure if Matt's busy or not. He doesn't appear to be right now, but it's reading day. You got finals. Matt, I wanted to ask you, what a season. I mean, CCIW, most outstanding player, academic All-American of the year, first team All-American on NABC and D3hoops.com. I know it's not an individual thing, but as you step back and reflect, what a crazy year for you, Matt. How do you reflect on this season?
Yeah, definitely a fun ride. But just like you said, I think those are just as much a team award as they are an individual award. I think it takes a lot of selflessness from our guards, especially guys like Pete and Cory. It's also their senior season. I know the ball got thrown into me on the post a lot. I know that's not always the easiest thing to do. We're practicing like how to get me open on the block. I totally understand that, and it probably gets super annoying when I'm screaming at him to throw me the ball. But yeah, I think that's totally a team award. That's totally a group effort. I think we've talked about this before, but my stats don't necessarily jump off the page, especially when compared with, some of the other All-American guys who are averaging 23, 24 points a game. But I think one of the reasons I was able to get a lot of recognition is just because we played on such a good team. And our scoring was, fairly even across the board. So I think a lot of what I was able to accomplish individually can be attributed just to the great guys we had on our team and the other players and coaches. So I think it's just a combination of all of that.
And I have to ask you, Matt, going back to a couple of years ago, were you ever aware of the game at Millikan when you were rolling with the mustache and my friend, the play-by-play guy at Millikan, Eric Lee, was all over your mustache? What, like someone was shooting free throws? Maybe it was you, or I think it was them. Were you aware of the mustache chat? Did you ever pick up on any of this?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was all over Twitter. It was pretty hard to avoid after the game. I thought it was pretty funny. Still to this day, I can't really tell if he was making fun of me or if he was like complimenting my mustache, but we won that game. I'll take it as a compliment. It is what it is.
It was one of the funniest things, and he's a good guy, by the way. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen on a CCIW broadcast. He's just like, yeah, this is Leritz kid. So I was just wondering if you were ever aware of that.
Yeah, totally aware. And for the record, I didn't have the mustache because I thought it looked cool. It was purely for morale, team morale. It wasn't to try to walk into a gym and let everyone know that I look so good and I think I'm better than everyone else. An announcer thought.
I'll have to dig that up because that still is one of my favorite broadcast moments. As we wrap up, guys, what I would like to do is go around and what I'm interested in is your plans once this all ends. So when is graduation itself, guys? When is that?
Next Sunday.
Yeah.
Next Sunday. So you got your finals and then graduation. Everything's moving fast. I'd like to go around the room and know what your plans are. And if you don't know this year, because if I was on the QCast in 1993, I would be like, I don't know, I'm going to go back to Chicago and look for a job and some stuff. So if you don't know, that's totally cool. I know a couple of you may be in the transfer portal, so we need to dig into that. So Cory, do you know what you're doing next year with your life?
Yeah, I do. So I interned with an accounting firm, Clifton Larson Allen. They're kind of smaller here in Bloomington the past summer. And then I accepted a job with them in like October. So I've kind of known for a while, which is super nice knowing that, you know, senior year, maybe the grades don't matter as much per se. But so yeah, right now I've actually started studying for the CPA a little bit. So that's another reason I'm at the library. But yeah.
And make sure to take care of my friends Kurt and Sue Linshow very well. They've been my dear friends for a long, long time. Make sure to take care of them. Gavin, how about you? Do you have things buttoned up for next year?
Yeah, so I have 3 years of eligibility, so I'm throwing my name. No, I'm kidding. I'm heading back to the Chicagoland area. I accepted a job earlier this semester, insurance, property and casualty. So it's right in the West Loop. It's about a 5-minute walk from Ogilvy. So I'll be commuting that first year at least. It's going to be a hell of a commute. I know these guys joke. They said it'll take me 2 years in the corporate world, so I want to go back to coaching. But we'll see. I'm excited about it and kind of excited for that next step.
Yeah, you kind of seem like you might have that Ron Rose pat to you. Like he tried to work at State Farm for a few years and he couldn't stay away from it. So we'll see. But that's super cool. And I wish you the best of luck, Gavin. Pete, how about you? I know that you're looking for an opportunity to play maybe a little bit and go to school another year. How are things going at this point, Pete? And what can you tell us about your plans?
Yeah, I'm planning on using my 5th year of eligibility and pursuing an MBA just to, you know, keep playing basketball, honestly, simply put. And then whenever I'm finished with my program, I'll end up working out in Chicago in public accounting and sitting for the CPA.
As long as you don't like roll into some game where you're playing against us next year, that would be super not cool. Like if like if we play Wash U and you're defending our guys, that would be not cool at all. So please keep me posted, Pete. And Matt, I think you're in a similar situation as Pete. Tell us where your situation is, Matt, in terms of next year.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, as you know, I'm currently in the transfer portal and I'm looking to get a scholarship and pursue my MBA. If I can speak for Pete on this too, pretty much all these guys, but you know, because Wesleyan doesn't have a graduate school and we're not on athletic scholarship, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to stay, even though I think we all want to stay and we would all love to stay if it really made sense. Like, this place is awesome. I don't think there's a better place in the country to play small college basketball than here at Wesleyan. So if I had the opportunity to stay, I would love to stay. Right now, I've started taking some visits. I've kind of narrowed down my list of schools that I'm talking to. So hopefully a decision will be made in the next couple weeks. I want to get this thing wrapped up sooner rather than later and have an idea of where I'll be next year. So yeah, it's kind of all coming to an end, but it's been good so far.
Well, to say for Pete and Matt, wherever you guys end up playing, I will be watching every video stream of that team. And so, and just to build on that, Matt, I've had some people ask me kind of from the outset, like, well, why are Lambesis and Leritz leaving? Well, they're not leaving; they're graduating. They're done. That there's no grad school at Illinois Wesleyan. There's nothing for them to do unless their parents want to pay a whole bunch of money for them to play basketball for a year without them getting a degree that's going to help them. So they've got a year of eligibility left and there's nothing more for them to do at Illinois Wesleyan. And I do know that Yeshiva wants both of you guys. I know you're aware of that. I believe that their fans would really like both of you. And that's like, I can't have you coming to the Shirk next year with the Max. I don't think I can, but actually it would be pretty funny. So I don't know if Yeshiva is on your list, guys, but they both want you guys super bad. Pete, are you aware of that? How bad Yeshiva Nation wants you?
Yeah, yes, I am.
Like there's people, are you aware, Pete, that like people in New York, Yeshiva fans want a Lambesis jersey, like that's a commodity. Are you aware of that?
I saw that Twitter thread like after we had played, and then initially I thought it was just like a joke at first, and then I saw some people had followed up with it, which I think is hilarious. But yeah.
What I like to do is give you guys kind of the final word. You know, you've got Division III Basketball Nation tuning into this. You've got Illinois Wesleyan Basketball Nation tuning into this. And I'm just going to go around the room, and I'd like you guys to just kind of give any final thoughts you guys have to kind of wrap up the season, wrap up your experience as a Division III student athlete. Just any final thoughts you have, and then I'll let you guys go. So Gavin, start us off. What final thoughts do you have?
Yeah, I just think of like how special these past 4 years have been. 3 guys that I can call my best friends, lifelong friends, and really just how special of a place Illinois Wesleyan is. You know, you don't really get that balance of academics and, sports with the best coaching staff in the nation, is what I'd like to say. But I think just the experience overall and feeling so like special and wanted at this university with, some special people, it's just really, really been something I will cherish forever.
And kudos to you, Gavin, for hanging in there. I know that the basketball wise, it didn't turn out like you wanted it to. It was tough to see you with that thing on your shoulder for all that time. And it was really cool to know that you ended up on the sidelines this year. When I realized that earlier this year, I thought, well, that's really, really cool. And so kudos and good luck to you. Cory, how about on your end? Final thoughts for those tuning into the QCast.
Yeah, these 4 years have been great at Illinois Wesleyan. And being able to play Division III basketball at a university like this has been so much fun. Like Gavin mentioned, that balance between, getting that college experience as well as being able to play sports in college is really special. So I really challenge, high school athletes that maybe look down upon Division III or anything like that, really think about it, because it's a really cool opportunity and it prepares you for life. You're going to be making connections with, future alums like yourself that will lead you into the working world. So really cool experience you get at the Division III level.
Very well said, Cory. And it's been a pleasure watching you play. You've been an awesome Titan, and I think you carried yourself incredibly well on and off the court at all times. Matt Leritz, how about on your end? Final thoughts for those tuning in here.
Yeah, I think my 4 years as a basketball player and as a Titan were more than anything I could have ever wanted it to be, really. Like basketball aside, just like the love I have for this school, the people I've been connected with. I've made so many great friends here. These 3 guys are some of my best friends for life, no doubt. Just like the fun we've had together, just through all the good times and the bad, it's just been absolutely amazing. And then when you throw basketball into the mix, it just makes it that much better. We had a great ride. There's no other coaches I would have ever wanted to play for. There's no arena I would have ever wanted to play in aside from the Shirk Center. And I just being able to suit up and go to war with some of your best friends and just a group of all around great, genuine guys is something really, really special that I don't think a lot of people get. So I'm forever thankful for that.
Yeah, and Matt, I think you're a great example of kind of how talented Division III basketball is. I always tweet out a couple times a year, like all these kids that are getting told they're too good for Division III should go watch player X and go watch Matt Leritz play. If you're better as a 5-man than Matt Leritz, then go ahead and go to Division II or Division I. But you kept getting better every year, Matt. You worked your tail off, and you became the guy that the ball went through this year. And like the rest of the guys, I'd say kudos to you and how you carried yourself. You made us very proud to be Titans. And Pete Lambesis, Pete, your final thoughts here for people tuning in.
I wouldn't trade this experience at Wesleyan for anything. And I think in terms of Division III, it's a good word. It's very unique. And what it comes down to is it's as special as you make it. I think the 4 of us can agree we all kind of bought in from day one. And just like some advice to younger guys, like it's absolutely worth it. Buy in. We can say, we had a successful 4 years here, and looking back on it, it was all worth it too, putting in the work and everything. And that's kind of what matters, that journey of, the 4 years, not the individual games or, certain games and whatnot, but that knowing that we gave it everything we had and we bought into it, and we made it as special as we wanted. So that's kind of what I'll take away from my experience here.
Yeah, I think Pete, you're such a fan favorite because you're the ultimate team guy. the way you played, you did all the little things. You'd guarded the other team's best player. You made every hustle play. Every time it was tied with 2 minutes left, you did something to help the Titans win. That's why people in New York want Lambesis jerseys. That's why Titan fans are going to miss Pete Lambesis, because you just played the game the right way and you were the ultimate team player. And very proud of how you played and carried yourself on and off the court. Last thing I'll say to you guys is I have a very good friend of mine, Ben Alsene, who you guys know as the public address announcer at the Shirk. And what all of you have meant to Jason Alsene has been an incredible thing. And, Jason is the biggest Titan fan there is. And you guys have gone out of your way to just be great to him. And I'm sure Ben thanks you for that, but I just want to make sure that the broader Titan community knows how great you've been to Jason, and taking care of Jason is kind of number one priority for Titan Nation. So kudos to you guys and what you've done for that young man. He loves all of you. I know that. Guys, thank you so much. This has been an honor to have you on. Thank you for Matt for helping me kind of wrangle you guys up and get everyone here together on a Thursday to chat. Got to tell Pete and Matt this immediately after that Wabash game. Just incredibly proud of all of you and the way you guys have conducted yourselves. I didn't get a chance to catch Cory and Gavin, but this has been awesome. I wish you guys success, and anything I can do for any of you guys just let me know, and I'll be here. So that is QCast Season 2, Episode 17. Thank you to Gavin, Cory, Pete, and Matt. And there'll be a new cast next year, folks, at Titans. And we look forward to seeing them play. But for now, let's give these guys kudos and honors. So thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob.
Bob.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks a lot, Bob. Appreciate it.